Welcome in here. Well, all of my good news from last week, all of my excitement for the weekend was rug pulled out from under me Monday morning when I was called by the company that had sent me the job offer, and they said, the person you're replacing is going to stay, so we're not hiring anymore. Sorry for my, what would have been today, going in to get inducted into payroll and receive my schedule. That's how close this was. So I've been quite bummed. I obviously didn't stream yesterday. I've been quite bummed by that because it means I have to fire up the old job hunt again. Shut everything down because I got an offer. I'm coming at it from having not had a job. Imagine if I had quit a job to take that one, and then one day ahead they say, "Sorry, no, it's not you, but the job's not available anymore." What the hell? Um, so, anyways, I've been not too happy about that. Boy, the U.S. is just great, isn't it? Nobody wants to work anymore. Anyways, so that what happened yesterday. I was all excited. It was such a relief because I've not been doing fantastically financially. I'll admit. And having one in my hand in the bag is like, yes. Well, apparently no. Having it in your hand isn't enough. So, hi Flemish, you're first. Hi Liz, you're also here. You're not first though. Welcome in. Um, yeah. So I've had a shitty. Um, yeah, I've had a pretty shitty day since yesterday. It was yesterday morning. It was Monday morning they called, um, as well. That was just okay. Yeah. So so I'm glad to see you. Welcome in. I'll try to be positive. I'll try to be, you know, on top of things. But boy, it sure was a rug pull, and yeah, I'm not super pleased about it. Oh, I mean, that's the hope. I thought this was going to be fine. It was part time. They had decent pay, um, but so it was part time. So I wasn't like deep ending a big crazy thing. That's the thing. It's low level garbage. It's garbage, but it's low level not job. It's not like, oh, you're going to be police commissioner. It's anyways. Um, that's where we're coming from. MJ, hi. You're not first, but welcome. Um, I have been looking at this box of pie crust that I bought for some reason at some point. It's been sitting in my fridge, and I look at it like I should make pie. And I do that all the time. Well, I'm going to make pie. So we're going to make pie. Because who doesn't like pie? Except also, I have this log of cheese that's going to have to be used because it's fresh It's fresh cheese. It's over the date, so we're gonna peel it open and look at it. And I guess if it's super gross, I'll get rid of it. But it looks like it's just fine. But we're gonna try to use this whole thing because it's again, it's been sitting there a little bit. And yeah, I'm gonna attempt to construct a pizza inside of a pie and make a pizza pie. Sweet cheese pie. No, it's gonna be savory cheese pie. I'm gonna make savory cheese pie. Because, pizza pie is already a thing that people say. I'm just gonna take it very literally. So, let's see what the pie crust says about stuff. Bake according to recipe. Well, we don't have a recipe, so although a sweet one, I don't have anything sweet to go with it. Make a cheese tart and put sauce and toppings on it. That's an idea. I was thinking. Here's my thought. My thought was take a clue from the construction of a deep dish, which has the crust and then a layer of cheese and toppings, and then sauce on top of that. And I was going to take a pie crust as my bottom, cheese it in, put my veggie stuff above that, drown that in our tomato sauce, top crust it. So use both and make an enclosed pie crust. We might have some soggage. It sounds like I made a very wet filling. But actually enclose it with the second crust. And then on top of the second crust, cheese and pepperoni. So the top looks like pizza-y, but it's just this real thin, like, seasoning on top of the pie crust with this sort of big, thick, mostly veggie, and then cheese at the very bottom. Partially because I think you don't want the sauce on the very bottom because it's going to try to leak through the crust. We're going to have to drain this and maybe even pat them dry because this is fresh mozzarella, so it's wet. And I do have some shredded mozzarella, which is low moisture stuff. This is what you usually use on a pizza. But I was just going to use a little sprinkling of this on the top for like a decorative topping. And that's the idea. That was the concept. We could workshop it. I have time, as we discussed just seconds ago. I got nothing else going on. I have time. We could workshop this. I am going to preheat our oven because I think we want to blind bake the bottom crust regardless because I'm filling it with some pretty wet stuff no matter which way we go with this. So we'll preheat, to make sure there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. We'll preheat our oven and we're going to blind bake the bottom just for stability. It says 450 for like a pudding pie, which is just a baked shell that you fill with a cold filling. It doesn't actually have specific instructions because it expects you to use a recipe instead of making something up. But we're making something up. Hey, there's one from food.com, and it's got an actual pie crust. Yeah. So, it's going to be something. At the very least, it's going to be edible because there's nothing in here that's going to be a problem. I have a Tart pan. I have a tart pan. So we could try this as a tart. We haven't used the tart pan. It just kind of hangs out in here. Because I have all these odds and ends parts. We don't need the little pie plates or little cake rounds. I have this tart pan, and it's a proper tart pan with the removable bottom. We could potentially make it a tart. Otherwise, I was about to say I have a smallish actual pie pan, which would limit our ability to fill it. But now I'm thinking the tart might be the way to go. And then I could still cheese the bottom. And then a tart would be just open topped. You wouldn't use the second crust, which might be the better choice. I think completely loading it up with such wet fillings might just make an actual like enclosed pie too soggy. I think we're going with the tart. In which case we're changing some of my initial plans. We'll need to oil the tart pan. Okay. Like I said, we've got time to workshop. Pizza tart. A pizza tart. Pizza tart. Well, that's not what that is. Have these people know what a tart is? Those were squares of puff pastry with a slice of tomato slapped on top. That's neither a pizza nor a tart. Where's the dough at? Also, hi, Batica. We're using pre-made dough today. It's here because I've been looking at it in my fridge. I bought it for something that I can't remember what it was for and never used it. And I keep looking at it. So the concept is that I've got pre-made dough that I want to use. Also, Bookwoman, hi. You're the same color as Liz. So I didn't see you for a second there. Yeah. So I think that's what we're going with. We're going to go with a tart pan. We're going to make a tart. So we're going to have a spare pizza crust, and we're going to have to do something else, or not pizza crust, pie crust, and do something else with that. I guess I'll change the title to pizza tart. Tart. Pull up. I've got a tart recipe up just to check for temperatures and times. I don't think I've ever made it. I have definitely never made a proper tart with the tart pan. I grabbed this because I saw it at a shop, thinking I'll make a tart at some point and I'll want a tart pan. Blind bake. Yes, blind bake 400. So we still have to do a blind bake if we want to do a tart. Okay. Plan. I think that's a good plan. That's going to change my idea of our toppings, our fillings as well, because I don't have as much room as I thought I did. I have onions, bell peppers, mushrooms, and pepperoni. Any of those could go in, but now I won't be able to use like a ton of all of them, or we'll just completely overload this thing. I still like the idea of having the cheese under, so that when you cut into it, you get this cheesy inner layer, and it'll help the toppings, because we don't need the toppings to be glued down like you would with a regular pizza, because it's all going to be enclosed by having the sides come up like a pie. The crust is holding it together as opposed to having a cheese topper glue it down. We're just kind of chattering as I think my way through this. I've got one up here from the Lemon Apron. Don't know anything about their site, but they have a tart that they claim to be a pizza tart. Doesn't look like my concept, but it does look mostly cheese based. Theirs looks very like fancy. I'm gonna ignore their flavors as well, because I don't care. I don't know Batica Boy, and I'm hesitant to permit jokes in that vein. I'm not gonna say no, but take a modicum of caution if you continue in that. Oh, because 0% trans fat. Okay. I get it. Do I want to oil that. I want to make sure I give just a what's that smell? I mean, it's the smell of the oven, but it smells like something burnt on the bottom. Batica, I'm going to ask you to refrain from this angle of joking. Just to head off veering into anything that I might have to intervene for. If you don't mind. So I'm just putting some olive oil on the bottom and rubbing it in around the outer edge, which I hope will give us some browning effect and some easy release later on when we have to get this thing off of the crust without breaking the crust. My hands are all oily now. Now, if I remember my tarts, if I remember my Tart procedure, you don't trim it before you blind bake it because it'll shrink down. You blind bake it and then you trim it so that it's the proper height with the pan. Garlic butter on the crust. Maybe. Had a lovely Tart pan. Found out the hard way it was not compatible with the dishwasher. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, that sounds like a tragic. That sounds like a tragic discovery. Well, I don't have a dishwasher, and also this one is just all metal. But I can definitely see there being like non-stick such and such that doesn't hold up. Um, I'm going to get that off of the board. We'll use the board in a little bit. My oven's hot, so I can blind bake this whenever. So we will do that. We will carefully unroll. There you go. I wish I had a dishwasher to have dishwasher disasters. Washing all this stuff by hand after all the nonsense I go through is not. It's the least fun part of everything I do is the cleanup. And also, it wastes a lot of water because, I don't know if you know it, dishwashers use way less water than washing by hand. They use, in fact, fun fact, dishwashers typically use so little water that even though they are connected to the hot water line, they will often not pull enough water through it to receive hot water from your water heater before they stop requesting more water. So even though it's asking for hot water, depending on how close you are to your water heater, it might not receive any hot water before it stops. Some water heaters have their own heating elements, but that is not universal. And now it's more common in Europe for them to have their own heating elements, but it's more common in the US for them to be just connected to the hot water line and to trust that they receive some hot water. And that's not going to be universal either way. This needs to be slightly that way. So check your dishwasher to see if it is one that heats its own water or if it requests water from the system. And if it requests water from the system, a piece of advice that I cannot confirm is good, but I heard it on the internet, so you know you can trust it, is just to run the tap in your kitchen until it's hot before you run the dishwasher, just so that the water in the line that the dishwasher is receiving is warm. I did that really unevenly. It's really low on this side. It's not even quite up to the edge of the pan on this side. And it's way over on that side. which means I did this wrong. Get it centered. There you go. Anyways, I don't have a dishwasher, so I wish I had one. I also don't have baking beans for this. So my solution for that box dough is pretty good. No, I don't want to trim it. The bookwoman, other way around. It wasn't that this side was too long, it's that this side was too short. Anyways, we're poking the bottom. I don't want this side to completely shrink away. Anyways, I'm filling it with rice. as my weight, just dry rice. Or wait, I've never. Do you put a piece of foil down, right? You don't just put this in naked or it all gets stuck. Right? Sorry. I have not ever made a tart. Bookwoman says no, Liz says yes. Parchment? I don't have dry beans. I don't have dry beans. We almost made a rice tart. No, there has to be something in between there, otherwise the rice just sticks. The rice is just there to weigh something. We have time. We have time to spitball. We have time to make mistakes. I have a spare pie crust if I really screw it up. I know you're supposed to use those little ceramic things, but I've also seen internet cooks who did not know what they were doing deliberately use those little ceramic beans, and the little ceramic beans stuck, just adhered right into the crust, because they were supposed to have put down a layer of something. Also, these are tough to get out of here even without it having stuck in place. So definitely would be impossible to get out of here down the line. We're learning in real time. This is what real-time learning looks like. Thank goodness I don't have fingernails right now, or I'd be gouging this up. I don't know. Some time. What does this one say? 20 minutes is what this says. I don't know. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch the video. It was a long time ago at this point. Okay. Anyways, the rice is just for weight. Anything that you put in here just is something that won't burn. Yeah, they were ceramic pie weights. Okay, this is going in now. Ow. And we are setting a timer. With our shiny new magnetic timer. I thought maybe it would be visible, but it's too small on the little inset. Okay, we're going to have some toasted rice in the future. That's going to be fun. In the meantime, I absolutely need to open this up and see if there's anything wrong with the cheese. And then we need to dry it off a little bit. It looks fine. And it smells fine. So I think we're good. What I want to do is get some of the juice off of it. Max, hi, welcome, welcome. Paper towel. So we're going to dry this off a little bit, because fresh mozzarella is rather wet, and also I just rinsed it with just tap water, and that is making it also wet. And you're never going to get away from this being fresh mozzarella and not low moisture mozzarella, but we can at least take off the obvious external wet. And I believe the goal is to use the whole thing. Whole shebang. Everybody's red today. Remember the stuffed crust I made that was overstuffed? No. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, this mozzarella log came pre-sliced into slices, which is, I guess, a thing they do. There was just a big, the brand, not the store, but the brand, Belgiosio, which is this brand, had a big sale on specifically mozzarella, which is why we've done a few things with mozzarella, because it was like, oh, well, fresh mozzarella on sale. Isosceles. You're not first. Belgiosio. Belgiosio. Eating watermelon because work decided to have a summit. We had to come in, and there's a heat warning. It's 106. 106 sounds awful. It's like 80 here, and I have hated it. I hate heat. Heat is my enemy. I'm just going to lay these out to let the surfaces dry off a little bit while they sit. I guess we're going to get ready with some other toppings. It always has, I always say, I can't remember what I always say, but it has more eyes in it than you think it is supposed to have, is what it is. It's a lot of cheese. We're going to fill it up. I mean, if we don't use all of this, I'll have a few extra pieces. But I'm going to use as much of this as it'll fit. We're going to completely fill the bottom with these guys once it's baked. That's the plan. And we're going to, I guess, see how well things fill up. We're going to use pepperoni. I've got mushrooms, I've got bell peppers, I've got onions. We could do kind of like that supreme mix going on. It's a decent brand of cheese. It's not the cheapest, but if you want fresh mozzarella in most like standard grocery stores, it's probably the only option you have. It's a good snack and cheese. If you want to make a caprese, you get some of this stuff. Cheesy. I also want to make my own mozzarella. Way back, before any of you were here, I know because only 2 people showed up at different times, non-overlapping, for one of my very first streams when I made cheese. And I didn't make mozzarella. But I've always wanted to go back and try making mozzarella. Because I've seen a chef do it in a timed challenge and make mozzarella from scratch in under 45 minutes. So it's possible. I don't know that it is easy. I know when I made cheese the very first time, I made halloumi. And then I tried to make ricotta out of the way, and that failed miserably. But the halloumi took me 5 hours, which is very long. It was one of my absolute longest streams ever. And it was also, I think, my very first one. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I don't even think I uploaded that one to my archive on YouTube just because it was a It was a terrible time. And the sound was bad. I didn't have my lapel mic yet. I was still on that crappy headset. It's right. Good distinction. Good distinction. It's simple. That does not mean it's easy. I'm going to cut some vegetables because I don't want this just to be plain. I like a pizza with some stuff, and also it'll help with the colors. So, otherwise it's going to be very red. So I've got a bell pepper. I've got some mushrooms. Mushrooms are also on sale. We're definitely not going to use this whole bell pepper. It's going to be like a. I'm picturing like the stereotypical mix of things. So just a couple of mushrooms, but sliced through, so you get that perfect little mushroom shape. Maybe like one lobe of bell pepper, sliced real thin, so it's got those little half moon things, and then just a little bit of onion, which is unfortunate because I have these big onions. This is the smallest available onion, so I'll only need like not even half of that onion. And pepperoni. Calling you out, Hormel. You duped me. You sold me a sliced meat product that you labeled as chorizo. It looked just like this. It was little pieces of sliced red sausage. And it said chorizo, and it said, put them on things like you would pepperoni. And I was like, oh, that's a neat idea. Pre-sliced, thin-sliced chorizo for doing, things you would do with pepperoni, but with chorizo flavoring. Because those chorizo sausages kind of be crumbly. They're hard to get really like thin, machine-sliced pieces off of. I should be cutting while I'm talking. You duped me into buying one of those because I thought it was a good idea. And when I tasted it, what did I find? It was this. It was the same thing. It was your pepperoni, but you charged more for it with less in the package. It tasted exactly the same as pepperoni. So I guess the lesson is, don't be fooled. Caramelized onions would be tasty. I don't think I want to caramelize some onions now. I also don't know that they would go with the flavors that I'm currently angling towards. Some sweetness might be good, but I think I want fresh veggie as opposed to heavily cooked. I'm not intending to pre or par cook any of these veggies. They're going to go on raw because there is going to be quite a bit of cheese in there, and it's going to be a heavier thing overall. So having the fresher veggie toppings, I think, sounds more appealing. I think if we were going about it a little bit differently, caramelized onions sounds like a great idea for a tart. We can perhaps return to that concept for the other crust, which is here. That's not a bad idea. I'm actually going to put that away in the fridge right now because I just remembered it and it's not being used. I want the medium mushrooms. We're going to have to wash them. They're a little bit dirty. I don't want the giant one. Getting your flavors, like, that's one of the things that just takes, like, I myself here with you guys countless times have been like, oh, let's add this. And then when I get to the tasting, I'm like, boy, this was really good except for that thing I added. And I just have to be better about recognizing where the flavors are going rather than getting starry-eyed about, ooh, that sounds good, and then throwing it in. It was something just 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, very recently, where I threw in some Spam, and then in the final tasting it was, everything tastes amazing except the Spam, which didn't incorporate at all and really clashes. I'm like, yeah, shouldn't have put that Spam in there. Oh, it was the quasi Filipino spaghetti that I would just kind of made up on the fly. It was doing Filipino spaghetti on the fly, and I added Spam because I thought it sounded like it would work, and I remembered it being in some of those recipes, and it just clashed, and it was not good, and it was the only thing that clashed. And I tried to talk it up and be like, it's not that bad. But boy, every time I took a bite, I was like, it's pretty good except for the Spam that I can definitely taste as a distinct thing. So I think if we do caramelized onions, first of all, caramelized onions are a lot of work. But I think if we do caramelized onions, we will start with the idea that I'm going to... We're not even using 3 mushrooms because I don't want these to stack up on each other, and those are our nice little iconic slices. So 2 mushrooms it is. If you want a hack for caramelized onions, because caramelizing onions on the stove is time consuming because you have to return and stir and flip them and like tend to them. If you have a crock pot or a slow cooker, just slice up a bunch of onions and chuck them in there. Is that a train? Am I hearing a train? Yes, exactly. You take a bunch of onions that you intend to caramelize, and you throw them in the crock pot, and you salt them, just like you would with, some salt, some butter, all the ingredients. You take your caramelized onion ingredients, you throw them in the crock pot, and you put it on low, and you just let them sit there. And you can check on it every once in a while and give it a stir, but it very gently and without the risk of burning them, which is the danger with doing it on the stovetop, is you have to get that temperature control so perfect, or set it real low and then it takes a million years. But in the crock pot, because you get the lid on it so it doesn't dry out, it just slowly stews down the onions and they get all brown and jammy without the risk of them burning. It takes a while, but it's a crock pot, so you can just set it and let it go. That's my tip for making caramelized onions. And then, of course, caramelized onions, once they're caramelized, store really easily. You can put them in an ice cube tray. You could do little jars, whatever. And then you have them on hand for future projects. I haven't done that, but that is a thing you can do. Where was I? I was cutting vegetables. I'm just going to take the butt side off of this onion. Um, you can have that tip for free. But yes, that'd be the way to do it. It does take a while, so I'd probably start onions in advance for such a purpose. Also, if you're cutting up that many onions, get a mandolin. We have just a minute left on our blind bake. I'm going to let it cool off a little bit before I fill it up as well, because I don't want the cheese to immediately melt. The cheese is getting a little sweaty, which is possibly a good sign. I'm going to pat it down before I put it in there again, just to reduce the overwhelming moisture. And I guess those are our toppings: pepper, onion, mushroom. We can cut a little bit more pepper if I think it looks a little sparse on the plate. Onion pies are a thing. Sweet yellow onions. Haven't tried it, want to. That sounds good. If you have a recipe, shoot it in the suggestion box in Discord. Speaking of Discord, speaking of the current project, before I get to Discord, let's slide over and see if I've ruined this pie crust. Well, the rice looks the same. The crust is a little toasty. We're going to trim it anyways, so I'm not super worried. But it folded over, except for right there. It kind of folded over, which is exactly what I wanted it to do, because it'll make it easy to trim those edges. The foil, of course, cools off very fast. But the stuff does not. That doesn't look done. It feels super raw still. Discord. I have a link. Here is the link. If you've never done Discord before, you'll have to create an account. Otherwise, if you're on a Discord, you can just join up my my channel. Hi, I see you. Discord's also the best place to see the pictures, the glamour shots that I go in the other room and take the glamour shots. They always go on Discord. They don't always go everywhere else because I forget about them. But they always go on Discord, because that's the very first thing I do right after I'm done here, is I go and I just toss them on over. Do I think I want to bake that a little bit more? Because it's not really crispy on the bottom. It's kind of soggy. Soft. but the edges are really brown. I'm supposed to trim these burnt bits away. We'll do that. It's hot. Well, I'm going to cut the edges. Because we don't want this overhang stuff was just there as a buffer. It's already almost cool enough to touch. There you go. So we beansed it too hard, or riced it too hard. Or perhaps we should blame the foil for being too much of a moisture insulator. I'm not much of a baker, so we're in the process of like probably destroying this, probably making a mess. I'll look over and you'll be like, "Don't trim it." Now that I've trimmed it. Miss Sepsi, hi, thanks. I went over the details of the sordid week, but it's Tuesday and I'm already now. I feel better because I'm here streaming. As usual, I just feel better having gotten in here. But boy, it is definitely one of those weeks where you go, boy, what a week it's been, and it's Tuesday. Yeah, you guys are over here. Thankfully, we already have foil ready to go. So I can just shape onto the thing here. From frozen pies. Interesting. Ooh, that's not good. The foil immediately popped off. Good enough. I know it doesn't have to be like tight. Okay, I don't know how much longer to leave that in there now. I guess we just keep an eye on it. Let me get rid of these slightly burnt shards. You guys don't get to see the bucket. So how's everyone else's time going in now times? Mine's been real bad, and I'm real bummed, as we discussed. So what's up? So what's going on with you? Your week's been pretty rough too. Well, we can cheer each other up here together. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. If you just want some nice vibes, we can just have some nice vibes as well. That's the plan. I'm glad I pushed through my funk and got myself online today. Because boy, I was just kind of like shriveling up in my own head. So I'm super glad you guys are here. Just have somebody to talk to. Ooh. There'll be a Paramore LaFay. That's exciting. Dry off this cheese. You guys are looking at nothing. I hope that toasted rice doesn't cause any trouble. It's going right back in the rice. Yesterday, the 3D sculpting. It makes you want to go find old sketchbooks. Sure, why not? Give it a go. Be proud. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. I said the word yesterday. And I know I had a follow-up to that. And now I have lost whatever that follow-up was going to be. So I guess we'll just hope it comes back or assume it wasn't important. Something about yesterday. I do something with mushrooms. I gotta do something with mushrooms. I've got to do something with, because now I got all these mushrooms. We ended up using 2 mushrooms, and I've got all these mushrooms. The crust has developed a little crack. It's cool outside. Oh, well, count me as jealous there. We had a brief stint of cool weather, but it has rolled right back into heat and especially humidity. Um, so I had the windows open for a little while and they are all sealed up. I turned the air conditioner off just before I started, um, just so it wouldn't make noise. And this room is getting hot because the oven's on. So I might actually go and turn it back on. You guys usually can't hear it unless I stand right next to it. The thing is pretty good at gating that out. So I might just switch that back on to give it a fighting chance against the heat that I'm now producing in the room here. Supposed to get up to 90 again this weekend. Not super looking forward to that. Oh, those are on. Yay! So yeah, boy, this summer's been a weird one, hasn't it? This whole year, the winter was a weird one too. Whatever happened to normal weather? I keep peeking in at the pie crust. I'm not sure what I'm looking for at this point. I'm not sure what I'm looking for at this point. We have options for our, so, no we don't. Yeah, we do. I'm probably going to go with the safe option, which is, I was going to get, oops, you guys are already over here. I was going to get tomato puree and season it myself, but tomato sauce with the seasonings already in it is half the price of the same size can of tomato puree. So that's the one I got. We can still zhuzh it up a little bit, but it's got garlic powder, onion powder, and red bell pepper in it. So it doesn't have basil or oregano or black pepper. The other option I have is this stuff, which, as you can see, was discounted. And this is one ingredient, tomatoes. Now that, I think, would make for a pretty fine, I don't know why this was discounted. It expires in 2 years. That's a 26. And that's not an expiration date. It's a best before because it's all nice and sealed. I might go back and see if they got another one of these I can just stick in the cupboard and be like, I've got nice tomatoes for years. I think this would be the one that you really want to use though, because it's just tomatoes. Then you can zhuzh it up yourself. It's also a lot bigger. It's twice the size of this can. It's not quite twice the size of this can. Yeah, it also could be that the full price. I don't know what the actual like main price is. $2 for this is a steal, but they might be discounting it heavily because whatever price it was originally at was not selling because it's like a premium brand. So they're just discontinuing carrying the product because people weren't buying it, and they're just pricing it to get rid of it. I know that happens because I've asked at the store sometimes about things that obviously aren't expiring like that. Obviously are way off of their expirations, but they're super discounted and they're just trying to get rid of them. And it's because they have had their shelf space revoked. Something else is being cycled in to the space where those were, and they're just getting rid of them. That's what happened with that's what happened with these. This is like a luxury brand of chili crisps, and they had all these flavors, and I got a bunch of them. Um, like they're just different types of peppers. They're not like flavors. They're different kinds of peppers. $1. When they rang this up, this jar was $12 originally, marked down to $1. And I'm sure at $12 I would not have purchased it. And I bet you a lot of people were looking at it like, that's too much for a little tiny jar of fried chilies in oil. So it never sold. So then the corporate says, oh, get rid of it because it's not selling. So then they slap a super discount on it, and I get it for, 8% of its original price. Cost me $2 to get 2 jars of that stuff. And it sits up there because like this is fried chilies packed in oil. This is never going bad. Speaking of discount food, Reese's Cups with potato chips in the peanut butter, and the chips were still crispy. Weird. Impressive that they're still crispy. That is one of the hardest things to do. I've had like potato chips covered in chocolate, and they were not crispy. Even when they went like a kettle chip to give it the best chance, it was. They lose their crisp when you put them in something like that. So it's impressive that they figured out how to make that stay. Our pie crust has become brown on top, so I'm pulling it. It also has cracked a little bit, which has me concerned. Get these guys off. There's one piece of rice in it. It also seems to have risen up a little bit, which is probably because I took the weights off. There's a crack on the near side. That crack, I can see metal through it. So that's not just a cosmetic crack. That's an actual breach in the integrity. And it has risen up a little bit on the opposite side over here. It's hot. And there's one piece of rice in it that I'm going to get out of there. It doesn't look bad. It definitely could be better. This, right here is why I would have been embedded in it all over the place if I hadn't put down a layer. Faux show. So I guess we'll find out. Yeah, it's definitely shallow. Like there's less room because the bottom has poofed up a little bit over here. If I rotate it for you, you might be able to see it. How it's the crust is just thicker over here, and on that side, that's a full-on breach. That might be a challenge. Ryuya, I had never heard of it before, and it was not the intention of today when I started. We're in uncharted territory. I was going to make a fully enclosed, like, pie with a top crust and the whole shebang. And I saw the pie tart, and Liz was talking about tarts, and we decided to just go, nope, we're changing gears, we're doing a tart. So here we are, we're doing a tart. I'm a little concerned about that because the cheese is going to be on the bottom. And it's going to leak through that hole and stick to the, I don't know. Yes, and thank you for the, I'm feeling better because we were chit-chatting and thing. Once we get loose, I will all come crashing back in on me, and I'll sink back into my depressive funk. Um, well, our ingredients are over. Yeah. Um, we have fresh mozzarella, which is very wet, which is why I wanted to make sure that and even though I've been patting it dry, it still seems kind of damp. Which is why I wanted to make sure that our bottom crust here was like actually cooked and not just hot. Um, and then pretty basic stuff: pepperoni, green pepper, mushroom, onion, and red sauce. Pretty basic stuff. Is there any way to plug that hole? Cracked tart crust. How to fix cracked crust? Store-bought, crack easily. Thank you. That's not helpful. Those are cracks before cooking. Cracks. How to fix holes. Egg wash. If the crack is a narrow slit, you can do an egg wash, which should. We should have egg washed the bottom when I put it back in. No, I'm not going with sausage or bacon today. Honestly, this thing doesn't have a ton of room, so I'm a little bit worried about, even with just what I've got, overloading it. We also need to zhuzh up our sauce, so there's going to be some seasonings going in, because that sauce is extremely basic. And honestly, I'm kind of just in the mood for some comfort food thing today. Yeah, I could. I mean, I could do some bacon, but I would definitely want to par cook the bacon, because bacon doesn't really cook very well if you put it raw on a pizza. And the only sausage I have, is something I want to give a try at some point, because I got this. It was 99 cents. It's jackfruit sausage. I guess I'll test that out eventually. Am I going for sweet or spicy? Oh, the chili Krispies. We were just talking about chili Krispies, although I wouldn't use one of those. I'd use the one I've got that's open. I do need to zhuzh up the sauce, and the sauce is going on top of the cheese. I'm letting that cool off a little bit, so when I put the cheese on it, it doesn't instantly liquefy. So I am stalling a little bit just to give that a chance to cool off a little bit. I was not going for a sweet sauce. I was kind of going for a neutral sauce, but spicy sounds good. I also have some pesto. I could take a dollop of pesto. Mix it into the red sauce, just to give it an infusion of the herbs. And a little bit of that cheesiness. I've got the chili Krispies. I've got a bunch of other hot sauces. If we crack open that jar of tomato sauce, it's gonna get used within a day, so I don't want to go too hard on it. We could load this thing up with anchovies, because that is a universally loved ingredient and everyone would be on board with it. Also a little worried that even just what I've got won't fit, because our crust has puffed a little bit more than I had hoped. It's cool enough to touch just with my hand, directly on the thing. The Tart pan is very thin. It's definitely warm enough to melt cheese, but it's also cool enough to touch, so it's not going to melt the cheese instantly. So we're going to start cheesing it by bringing the board of cheese over to it. I was not intending to use tomato paste in this, but I do typically do that when I make my own tomato sauce from just raw ingredients. Again, this is already got some seasoned elements to it, and I got it because it was half the price of the unseasoned tomato puree. So it just seemed foolish to get the tomato puree and then add seasoning to it instead of getting the pre-seasoned thing and work with what it's got. And we do, in fact, have 4 pieces of cheese left after cheesing this up for future cheesing. Yeah, I think we have room to do all of our toppings on top of that. So we will now we're going to sauce it next, and then we're going to have the toppings sit on top of the sauce, and then just a thin sprinkling of cheese for looks right on the top. Go with this bowl because it's handy. So, tomato stuff. Our standard garlic, onion, oregano, basil. Cleo. Hi, thank you. It's only Tuesday, and it's been quite a bad week. I hope the week gets better. There's a time for it to do so. There sure is time for it to do so. I like the idea of some of the chili Krispies, but also welcome in. You're in time for seeing if this works. We're gonna throw some of these delicious chili Krispies in here. They will boost up our savoriness as well as give us a little bit of spice around the edges. Whoa, I'm gonna call you used to because your name's really long. Hi, welcome, welcome. Your dad liked Tart. My dad was never really talked about tarts. I'm gonna skip the pesto. I think the pesto's probably better on its own. We're gonna hit this with the blue whisk just to make sure that the stuff is incorporated. join me back over here. The cheese is already showing signs of wet. I have no idea if any of this is going to even have a chance of working, or if this is just going to end up being a soup. Uh, and yes, I could just pour this on and spread it around like you would normally do, but I'm a little afraid of that. So I'm being careful with a spoon. Perhaps excessive, but I'd rather take extra time than overload it and try to figure out how to get extra sauce off without destroying the whole thing. And I think we have just a little bit extra, just a smidgen more than I was hoping for, which is fine. Pastry brush. No, I think pastry brush would not have worked here because there was those little spaces in between the cheese pieces that I really wanted to press it into. I think back of the spoon is ideal for this. Let's get our toppings, our other toppings, artfully arranged on top, where the toppings go. Well, even with just that small amount of onion, I think I have more onion than I was aiming for. Maybe not. I do like onion, so we can go a little bit harder on the onion than the pepper. And then once this is in the oven, we're going to have to come up with something for me to do while I wait. Arrange our mushrooms, and finally our pepperonis. Do we even want pepperonis at this point? Or do we just say this is a veggie one? It honestly looks pretty good already. I might just say screw the pepperoni. I might just skip the pepperoni and make this a veggie one. Why not? It's supposed to be health month, even though I said screw health. Screw it. I am going to give it just a modicum of cheese on the top. Background. Liz is coming in with a story that requires backstory. You're going to be an aunt in October. Your sister already has a baby blanket made by your grandmother. You want to make a baby something. Should you make a Halloween themed blanket or a Halloween-themed lovey, which is a stuffed blanket. I would go with the latter on account of there already being a standard blanket available. Although, having more than one blanket is also nice. If the question was, should I make a blanket as well, my answer would be yes. But since you have another option that is slightly different, I would vote for the one that is slightly different. Okay, that is now going back into our oven. Until I'm satisfied with it. And we have a little bit of cleanup to do, and then I think about if I want a additional dish. Additional. A little bit of cheese left over. Board that needs cleaning. A little bit of sauce left over, which, here's a fun trick. So I used this opener on this can, and we didn't use all of the sauce. So I can take the extra and return it to the can. And then take the lid and it's not obviously tight, but it closes the top. I still don't understand why this type of opener has not just completely taken over from this stupid thing. This stupid thing where the blade goes into the food. It creates a razor sharp edge, and also you can't reuse the lid because it just falls in. Well, I'm glad we could help Liz. If you care to, I would love to see a picture in the Discord down the line. I don't really have a picture or a spot for just random photos. And if you don't, that's also good. I understand. Don't want pictures of everything everywhere. It's the internet after all. You never know who's going to find it. But anyways, this now, I can just put it in the fridge with the lid on, and it's, again, not airtight, but it's good enough to last until tomorrow when I don't know, throw it on some spaghetti or something. Ran some cans that weren't metal, this type, crushed the sides and the top would not go back on. They weren't metal. Well, then I'm not surprised that this didn't work. The way this thing works is it bites into, let me find a can. I don't keep, they're in the other room. Can of bean. So this lip, the standard crimped can lid, is two pieces of metal that are kind of folded into each other like this. And the way your standard can opener does is it completely ignores that crimp, punches right through the sheet metal on the top and cuts a hole. The way this thing works is in that folded in on itself crimp, it slices through it from the side on the inside. No, on the outs. It has to be on the outside. It slices through it from the side. So the overhanging part remains in place, which is why you can put the lid back on. And the cut edge, there is still a sharp cut edge, but it's hidden because it's inside of one of the folds. Because it doesn't unravel the fold, it just cuts through them, and then that little cut edge is tucked up inside. So you can, if you go in there and really try to find it, you can find that little sharp edge. It is in there, because it does cut some metal. But it cuts it in such a way where it's not exposed unless you force it. So if your can, your non-metal can, does not have that folded in on itself crimp, I imagine the cutting surface on the opener is just sort of mashing into the side of whatever the top of the can's sealer looks like. And if it's not a standard can, it probably isn't hitting anything that it can work with. That's my guess. That's my guess. I don't know how long that's supposed to be in there. I don't know how long we've been live. I haven't dropped any frames. Now I've said it. Now I've jinxed it, of course. But we've had those interruptions the past couple of times. And I think and they're usually right at the start. It's weird. Yeah, so gosh, this would be the time when I'd be like, let's make a drink. But I don't know how to make a drink. It's a thing that I want to learn how to do. I need like a book of drinks. Because then I can make a drink while we're doing something like this baking without me having to fire up a whole dessert. Because we've done that a few times and it's a lot of extra work to on the fly a dessert. We did a drink way ages ago, and I didn't hate the idea. With pizza. Drink to go with pizza. Let's try a cocktail. I do like a Manhattan. A Cuba Libre. Pepperoni pizza. We could do that one. Let's do that one. Let's do that one. I have lime. A slightly old lime. I have a cola. And Cuba Libre. Cola, alcohol, lime is just the least helpful description. I have a coconut rum. I have bitters. I have whiskey. The only rum I have is coconut. Put the lime into coconut. Exactly. And I don't have the right kind of glass or a shaker. I do have this glass. Oh, and I've got a new jigger. They were selling these on discount for 25 cents, and I picked one up and took it to the register, and it was the only thing I had, and he said, "Oh, I'll just take it." So I got this for free. Do I have any? I don't think I have any ice. I never leave any room in my freezer for ice. That's going to be an issue because you're supposed to put some ice in first. How do you make a thing ice without ice? If I had a frozen lime, which I've been thinking, can you freeze limes and still use them? And if I had a frozen lime, that'd be the perfect thing. I'd just take a frozen lime, stick it in there. This lime's a little under the weather as it is. We'll put that guy in the bottom. We will makeshift muddle it with something. I also don't have a muddler, but I do have a chopstick. I have an absinthe spoon. I have an ice tong. We're going to use the fat end of this just to kind of crush up the peel a little bit, express some of those oils in the bottom. I know it's not proper. And then we put the coconut. And the cola, and we hope that having a small glass causes it to be almost balanced. Oh, I left a mess on my photo station. I'll move that while I'm standing next to it. And then we can even put a decorative lime wedge on the edge. I wish I had an ice cube to throw in the top there. I wish I had just one ice cube. There's no room in here for ice is the problem. I need to pare this down because there's no room for ice. Ooh. It'd be really good with some ice. The coconut actually works really well with this cherry cola, cherry RC. Ooh, that's actually quite nice. That coconut rum is usually very artificial tasting. If you taste it on its own, you can tell it's artificial coconut flavor. It's really distinct. It loses that artificiality. Well, it loses some of that artificiality in this mix. This could use some more lime, honestly. And an ice cube. That is something I have seen. I don't have any of those, but that is something I have seen, Liz. I don't know that I need ice, small quantities of ice often enough. Although if I take up doing cocktails, I might want them. I did just peek at our pizza tart, and I kind of like the looks of it, so I don't know how long it's been in there, but I think we're gonna haul it up and take a look at it in the proper light, see what we're working with. It's not leaking, it's not dripping, it's not really brown on top, but the mushrooms are all shriveled. And the cheese that was on the top has gone very melty. And I think that's all I was looking for. And it's got kind of a juicy, I don't know if you can see it. It's got a pretty liquidy middle forming. Should we bake it longer just to try to dry it out? I feel like it's just going to keep expressing more liquid upward. It's not leaking, it hasn't leaked out the bottom, which is very good. What do you think? Do we call it, or do we put it back in and try to bake it a little bit more? It's got a little bit of a soup forming right in the center, right in the center. Attica Boy says back in. Bookwoman says no twice. Attica Boy seems to be trolling because there's no meat. We decided to skip the pepperoni entirely and make this all veggie. So I'm going to take that as a sign that we should probably call it. It might set up a bit as it cools. And then we're going to have to try to get that ring off of it without breaking it. Not every pizza needs meat. I called an audible and said no meat for this one. It's too late. It's too late. We have passed the point of no return on meat. We'll have to do that next time. I feel like this is going to be one of those things where there are improvements to be made, and I'll have to do a post-mortem to tease them out. I feel like I'm not sure what I feel. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the situation here is. I think we could have fit more toppings in if I had properly weighted it down. I think using ceramic baking weights would help a lot because I wouldn't have to put down a sheet or beans. I don't have any dry beans, but beans might also have worked. Just to kind of help weigh it down without creating a airtight barrier, which is what happened with the foil, where the middle of the crust didn't brown because no air was getting to it, so it couldn't release its moisture. I do agree that we don't want to go back in on account of this outside crust. It's already quite crispy, crunchy brown. And I worry if we put it back in, it would just end up burning the edges. We'd have to tint the edges again and try to blast out that middle. But yeah, I don't know if the middle. Honestly, the biggest problem is probably just that I used too wet of cheese and too wet of sauce. I should use a thicker, more pasty sauce, which would probably mean either cooking it out a little bit beforehand or constructing my own sauce so that I can introduce less moisture at the beginning. I don't have any specific pie shields, no. We had some foil that I used when we put it back into par bake it, but that would just be crude pieces of foil around the edges, which worked. It worked for getting the middle browned up, but it wouldn't work here because they wouldn't stay in place. There's nothing for them to grab onto. Well, we're letting this cool off a little. I mean, it's already cool enough that I don't burn my hands when I touch the sides. This tart pan cools down very quickly, which is a good thing. We might be able to already wiggle it off of its, or try working it off so it's just resting on the plate. What am I going to put under it? You're supposed to put something under it and push upward through. And I don't have a tart serving plate, but I do have a medium-sized spring form that is smaller than the center of that tart plate, or that tart pan. So let's bring it over here. Let's bring this over here. And get this guy. Oh, it flexes. Which isn't the best sign. It let go. Oh, it doesn't want to let go. It's grabbed on this side near me. We didn't quite get the full release. It was very close to just dropping, which is, there you go, there you go, there you go. And then we lift it out. Get rid of the ring. And then we quickly realize that it's unstable, and it's going to have to stay on the, oh shoot. It has very low stability. It has enough to hold itself just barely. But and it's probably through the crack in the bottom. The bottom sheet is for sure stuck to the bottom crust. But it did not, boy, that was dangerous. If it had not had integrity around the edges and the ring dropped like it did right there, that would have been just goosh all over the stovetop. That would have been a terrible cleanup. That would have been one of my worst cleanups ever. As it is, it held together. There it is. It's still pretty soupy in the middle. I think we're going to cut a slice and see what a slice looks like. It does not quite have the structural integrity to serve it like a tart on the little plinth. Tell you what, I'm going to take a picture of it like this before I destroy it. Before I destroy it, because I'm definitely going to demolish this thing. We are definitely going to demolish this thing, trying to get a piece out of it. Because this side of the crust is already like loose. And there's also a break over here. And there's also a break over here. And even the parts that aren't broken have quite a bit of flex to them. I'm going to try to get a cut on this side because there's two breaks. And if I can line them up, I can turn them into a slice. Maybe. The bottom crust has integrity, at least enough to cut through with the knife. I'm getting a cheese pull in a place that I don't want one. Well, it's got a cheese pull. We got a nice slice out of it. And it's kind of trying to flow into the empty space. It for sure sogged the bottom crust. For sure. The bottom crust is just mush. Um, and that's not, you know, ideal. It comes out as a slice, but it's like I can't even pretend to pick it up. It's the edge crust is crispy, and then starting about there, right to the middle, the bottom crust is soggy. So this is a fork and knife affair. Um, so it is a fork and knife affair. Um, so slightly unfortunate. Again, very, very wet ingredients went into this. So I'm not surprised. That cheese pull was pretty good, though. Let me go take a picture, and then we can get on to tasting. And see how well the pie crust works as a flavor component as well. Paul Hollywood would hate this because soggy bottoms. But yeah, let's get the snaps in on it with my drink in the background. Come back and give us the tasteroo. Yeah, I think just putting pizza ingredients in this does not work. It is too wet. It needs either a modification to the ingredients or a modification to the crust. And if we did a modification to the crust, we'd be veering into Chicago deep dish, because that would be how you would sturdy up the crust. You would make it thicker, and you would include other flours and no butter just to make it a more solid crust. So if we want to stick with pie crust, then we have to modify our filling. We probably need to make a custom pizza sauce just to cut down on the extra liquid. We definitely want to use all low moisture mozzarella instead of the fresh stuff. I'm sure that made it too wet. But let's also see how it tastes and see if it's even worth trying to make it better. It might just be a not a good flavor combo. That is a possibility. Okay. Well, I take half of it back. The bottom crust has no structural integrity. But not because it is soggy all the way through. It's because it is soggy half the way through. And the bottom is just, there's a crispy layer on the bottom that tastes like pie crust, like a crispy pie crust layer on the bottom. It's just that layer is too thin to support the rest of it. So if you try to pick it up, it just falls apart. But that explains how you're able to get a slice and actually get it out, as long as it's supported. Because that little piece I had, there was a crispy bottom. Crispy, and the flavor is quite nice. It tastes like pizza. I'm not gonna lie, it tastes like pizza. You can feel there's just a little bit of a resist. And that's that bottom crust. Let's see if I... There. So it's gone soggy halfway through, but the bottom is still got some integrity to it's still got some integrity to it, to the point where it holds up. So it's even got an audible crunch. So it's kind of worked. And I think if we figured out how to make less wet filling, it would just work. So the kernel is here. It's not a fail. It tastes good too. The pie crust actually works really well with these fillings. I could have added more of the chili crispies to zhuzh up the flavor a little bit. A pizza stone! Oh my God! I did not use a pizza stone. It didn't even occur to me to use the pizza stone for this. Where's my pizza stone? I'm not sure even where I put it. I've used it so infrequently. That didn't even occur to me to use a pizza stone. I should have used a pizza stone because I have one. Where has it gone? It's a nice one too. No, that would have been a great idea. Just to I don't know where it is. I'll find it off camera. Oh, that would have been a great. Now I kind of want to revisit this right away and put these ideas into practice. Because, oh, there's a fly. Begone, fly. No, you're right. A pizza stone, put the tart pan on the pizza stone. The pizza stone gives you a good thermal mass, helps crisp up that bottom. Yeah. I got the fly. Darn, if only you'd been here at the start. Cheese tart filling, low moisture mozzarella, sun-dried tomatoes blended for the sauce, with the toppings mixed in. My original idea of when I was going to just be a full-on pie was to par cook the toppings like you do when you're making a pie, but par cook them into the sauce and then pile that whole thing in there as a sauce with toppings thing. And I think that would also help with our moisture problem. If you par cooked the onions and peppers and mushrooms and whatever else, they would express less moisture in the baking as well, because they would give up some of it in the par cooking process, and that would help too. I think you just have to. The idea is here. It just has to. You come at it from a different angle. You have to control moisture, as opposed to blasting it with heat. There's my pizza stone. It's right there. Oh. Clatter. My pizza stone. My pizza stone. Definitely should have used that. That would have been a great idea. Put it in the back. It lives all the way in the back. So I forget about it because it's big and heavy, and I don't want to have to climb over it every time I grab a different pan. Oh, darn. Okay, well, boy, I might want to. I've got a pie crust right now. We've got cheese. We could just literally come back to this right away and solve these problems on the fly. Knowing what's in it, fresh in our minds. That could be good. That could be good. Wow, the oven top is hot. That's not usually a good sign. Well, I think I've covered, unless you have questions, it tastes a lot like a pizza. Honestly, it tastes a lot like an slightly undercooked pizza. I wish, and I'm positive that's because it's so wet as well. It just didn't get it didn't get that dry heat. I don't dislike it, but it is more like the flavors of the toppings and the sauce and the cheese are more like a Italian pizza because they're very wet. Which isn't a bad thing, but it is a distinctive thing. Mr. Mania, hi. Oh, and not Mr. Mania, but thank you for the follow. We were just, welcome. We were just discussing the end result of this thing, and I'm just talking through the problems it has and the way to solve those problems, and I'm just about to talk myself into doing this same thing again later in the week to try to solve the problems because I feel like we're right on the cusp, and I have all the ingredients right now, but I'm not making another pizza today. So, yeah. The sauce is going to be the trickiest bit because I'll have to somehow get lower moisture pizza sauce. We could just start with a tomato paste. We could start with a tomato paste and thin that out a little bit instead of starting with a sauce and trying to thicken it. Because then I could control, because then instead of trying to get moisture out of it, it's much easier to put more moisture into it. We could dry the sauce. I feel like at that point it's just easier to get one of those little cans of tomato paste and add stuff to it. I feel like we've got this. I feel like I've got the idea. I feel like I've learned the lessons. I need to get like baking weights so that I can weight it properly. You know what the recipe said? The tart recipe said, or the first one, the pie recipe said, put another pie plate on top of it that's the same size as the one you have to hold it down. That's a great idea. I should have done that. I don't have that. But we could just, I have other like cake rounds. Just put a cake round on top of it, fill that with gravel or anything, and use that as the weight. Because then it'd be nice and flat. And it might also heat up enough. I'm just rambling. I'm chitting. I'm chatting. I'm just kind of brainstorming, which is fun, but nothing's happening on the screen. I guess I'm going to ship us off, and I'm going to brainstorm. And I really feel like we're going to come back this week with this part 2 and just solve it, get it done. So I guess stay tuned for that. Expect that. Um, I I kind of want to shoot for Thursday instead of Friday this week, just to give myself some breathing room. I've got relatives coming in from out of town on Friday, and I could cook for them here on the show, but I find it kind of awkward to be doing the show with guests in the other room that I'm deliberately ignoring because I'm making food for them. So I might shoot for Thursday just to balance that out. But I guess stay tuned. I think I've talked myself into just doing this again. So stay tuned. Let's bring my face up. Let's find a place to drop the crowd on a Tuesday. I haven't been on a Tuesday for a while. We can go off on another food channel, or we can check my follows list. Or we could do both. George is doing a subathon. Let's go drop off at George and say hi to George. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for all the chit chat. I feel so much better as usual. Even on bad days when I feel like I'm not gonna be able to muster it up, as soon as I'm here with you guys, as soon as you're, oh, it makes me feel so much better. I love doing this. It really cheers me up, even on bad weeks, bad days, bad weeks like this. So thanks. I know I say thanks all the time, but really I appreciate that you guys show up, like what I do, get involved. Thanks for the follows. Thanks. Just thanks for being here. Yeah. I had, it's just, it's such a bad day yesterday. It's such a bad day yesterday, and this has cheered me up so much. So really, truly, thank you. We're gonna go see George. George cooks all the time. We used to rate him more often, but then I switched to Mondays, and he's on Tuesdays. But we're gonna get a chance to slide in on George. He's doing some kind of subathon, so we will find out what he's cooking. And there's my countdown. So I will see you later.